You're listening to India Bio Speaks, your one-stop resource for science, news and careers. Dear listeners, in this special episode addressing mental health in academia, India Bio Speaks revisits excerpts from a discussion that happened on October 9th, 2020. This discussion addressed issues around mental health, particularly those that are relevant to early and mid-career faculty. Featuring Sandhya Visweswariah, Maitrayee DasGupta, Hansika Kapoor, and Imroze as panelists, this discussion was moderated by Karishma Kaushik and Mayuri Rege. Enjoy listening.
With respect to the lab, there's a whole set of challenges that come up when you're trying to set the culture, the tone of your lab. And here, a lot of people will struggle with how do I get my students to work? How do I motivate them yet, not overwhelm them to the point that you're pushing them beyond their capabilities? How do you maintain a professional relationship? Is it okay for a student or a PI to message somebody at 12 in the night and expect an answer? This is a common problem. How do you discuss that? How do you attain a mutually balanced work-life relationship, and setting expectations as to how much time has to be spent in the lab or what is important to an advisor or a student, setting expectations with respect to scientific rigor or work ethic. There are so many nuanced topics here. So let's start off with Sandhya, and then we'll get on to the other panelists. How do you deal with the issues here? Thank you.
So, this having to deal with people in your lab, it never goes away throughout your career. Whether you're an early investigator or whether you're close to the end of your career, every student or postdoc in your laboratory is an individual. And he or she will have their moods, their likes, their dislikes. And I think that has perhaps become one of the biggest challenges that we have to face, in the sense that we're supposed to relate to each and every one of them as individuals. Now, there is a feeling that maybe you can generalize and say, oh, I'm going to treat everybody the same. But that's really not the case, because there is personal chemistry. While in no way should that influence the progress of their science, there are certain students who you don't mind talking a little bit more to, and certain students who like to talk to you. Many of them just run away the minute they see you. So, you have to deal with all of these things without compromising the progress of their own science. And I know, and I still remember that after I started my own laboratory more than 20 years ago, I used to have sleepless nights because students in the beginning, they tend to fight with each other. There's no culture of the laboratory established. So there's always this feeling of students wanting to set up the norms of a lab and the way the lab should run. And there will be these conflicts and there will be these tensions, and you're acutely aware of them, even if they don't speak to you about it. And you have sleepless nights thinking, was I too harsh on him? Did I speak too harshly to her? Is he going to show up in the lab tomorrow? Is she going to sit in my office and cry? I mean, so there are all these emotional angles that come into your running the lab, which in a way actually disrupts you from taking on with the science. But there's one thing that I'd like to say. By the time you become a principal investigator, you've all worked in laboratories. You've worked in your PhD lab, you've worked in postdoctoral labs, and there are certain things in those labs which you found good, and certain things in those labs which you felt did not suit you. You were not very happy with it. Maybe your supervisor was too demanding, your supervisor was too strict, your supervisor never spoke to you. There could be many, many problems. Take stock of what they were and ask yourself, can I not have those things in my own laboratory? Because you experienced all that. The new students who come to your lab really know nothing except what you show them. So if you can kind of consolidate all your ideas and thoughts on what you've experienced, you might be able to create an environment which is less stressful on you because it's comfortable to the way you look at life, and hopefully less stressful on your students. But remember one thing, you can't please everyone. And you're going to have to be prepared at some point to face some slight conflict with the people working with you. But in no way should that affect their science. And that is something that we need to do and learn to detach ourselves from those things.
Thank you, Sandhya. I think there were so many points in that, Mayuri. To be honest, I mean, this is turning into a private session for me. I needed the most, maybe, of the 80 panelists. Okay, I'll maybe ask Imroze next on taking on new group challenges. I have personally, and some colleagues have mentioned, struggled to shed off the baggage of my earlier experiences, albeit good. For example, my PhD PI met me once a week. She do the science, go ahead. But it was in the US. They didn't have so many administrative and all the kind of issues that we deal with in India. So how have you built your group, or how have you worked with trying to adapt it to your own setting and not have so much baggage while building a new group? Because that's all that we have seen. Yeah.
So, well, I think I should highlight this particular point that in a way I have been quite lucky to be independent from very early years. So starting from my PhD lab to postdoc, so I had never been actually I had all the option to be completely independent. So in a way I had the opportunity to pick up the management skills, or how to talk to people or how to manage your lab members. So I had my own way of gathering these experiences, which has possibly helped me a lot when I started my own group. So I can't tell about others who had a different experience when they were mostly protected. Well, mostly were following somebody else's rules and regulations, but I had this very independent way of bringing my work through even when I was NCBS or an ISER. So I had this great opportunity. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So maybe it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
But we have to outgrow it or shed that skin.
Yes.
Mayuri, go ahead.
Yeah. No, we'll just take the rounds with the other panelists, Maitrayee, and then.
I saw the press and the Nadir. I mean everything. I mean, so I think that contrast in my experiences made me very focused that this is how a lab should be. You should be excited, very excited, with your goal, and that excitement should be transferred. And that's it. If your student is excited with the problem, they can take it further. Most of the time, I tell them 1, they come back with 10 next morning. At night, at 12, they will chat with me because they're excited about the idea. This is what we can do that. We can do that. I even don't think that much they think. So all you have to do is ignite their brains. Once these young people are excited, they can really change the world. They are so excited. I think that is a key to run the lab, because you share the excitement. That's the joy that you share, and you are happy, they are happy.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't
find the fire.
It's not that I don't scold them. Many a times I shout to the like anything, but the next moment I am friend with them. So it's just part of running a lab. No problem, no issues.
I think the common thread that is coming from everybody is basically you set the tone and you set the enthusiasm, and hopefully that comes for your students. Hansika, do you have just a few things to add here, maybe?
Sure. So all that I was going to add in is to know right from the start what kind of equation you would like to share with your teammates, group, whatever it is. I mean, if you want it to be hierarchical, I think that expectation should be clearly communicated to your lab mates. If you want it to be a flat structure, then that needs to be communicated so that everybody's on the same page. Time boundaries should be set so that work and home do not bleed into each other. And I think it's very important to vocalize all of these things and not just assume them. So I've done my postdoc in the US as well. And my mentor was so very respectful of the fact that I have a personal life, and it's important to maintain that the distance between work and just unwinding or recreation and things like that. And that isn't in Indian academic culture. And I think that it's important to vocalize if you would want to run a lab along those lines.
So Karishma, if I may add one point to here. So I see this, the fourth point, which is the setting expectations. So to my understanding, I think this is something we also should focus a lot, because this is what I think this also becomes a separate problem for a new PI, because expectations can change when you move through a different path of career, from new PI to your
mid-PI
professor or something. But I think it's very important to have a clear conversation with the students, to talk and understand expectations from the both sides. So so this is what I really, I think I have found this thing extremely beneficial. So in a way, this avoids a lot of further confusion among students. So this expectation can become a conflict if not handled well.
Yes, absolutely, Imroze. And see, the first, when you start a group, it's one member. So you're setting expectations only with that one person, typically, right? Then it expands and you have to set new expectations with everybody and personalize it, individualize it based on their personalities, how they operate. It's not a one size fits all. You can't run a group like that. Totally agree. I think this has been very important.
Yeah, I think we had some really great points. So this is the time where we'll take a short Q&A break. We're going to pick up some questions that have been asked. So the first one is, do you believe that the popular perception of the ideal researcher, Superman, woman, plays a role in exacerbating the mental health challenges, because you are just setting yourself up for failure by having this list? Who wants to start? Maybe we go backwards this way. Maybe we start with Hansika this time. Yeah.
Sure. Excellent question. And I like the gender neutral tone of that question as well, because it's an ideal researcher. So it's not the ideal male scientist and things like that. And I think, yes, of course, the ideal insert whichever profession you would like to insert would set up unrealistic expectations for you. And I don't think that's a very healthy way to, one, ignite your own curiosity in the scientific realm, as well as to maintain and sustain that curiosity over a period of time, because it isn't just enough that we've entered science. Now we have to learn how to stay and grow and develop in the scientific discipline that we've chosen to enter. So I do think that whatever conception of an ideal researcher is, it's also really important to surround yourself with mentors who you look up to and would be probably a little more achievable. So look at mentors that you've worked with, look at mentors that perhaps your PI earlier on has worked with, or which again does not mean lower your expectations entirely and only aim low. It isn't that, but if you do aim and say that, hey, I'm going to do this fantastic study and get these millions of dollars in grants and win the MacArthur Genius Award and things like that, it's really it's going to put a lot on your plate, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on you, and you're going to be responsible for that pressure and for, well, allowing the whistle to blow and release that pressure. So I think ideal anything is not a sustainable way to try and develop and grow in a profession, regardless of what profession it may be. So I would say aim more realistically. Look at mentors that you have worked with in the past, or that you look up to, or who are reachable in a sense, and try and emulate and take good qualities that you can emulate from them, perhaps.
Thank you, Hansika. What extent, see, we have informal mentorship, Sandhya and Maitrayee, both of you may have done it in your career. To what extent do we need a formal mentorship, like a match, like a Be the Match in Indian science for early career investigators who come in? What do you think are the pros and cons of this? The cons, as I see it, you will get tagged as so-and-so's whatever. It becomes like gangs and coteries and cabals. But what are your thoughts, Sandhya?
So very quickly, I think when we set up the Center for Biosystem Science and Engineering, we realized that mentorship was something that was sorely lacking, especially amongst new investigators when they joined the center. And so what we did was we set up what was called a mentorship committee. for each of our new faculty that we recruited in that particular center. Now, who are the mentors? They were not picked by me or the chair of the department. They were selected by the young person. So after he or she was in the institute for perhaps 6 months to 8 months, so they got to get to know people around them, we asked them, who would you like to be on your mentorship committee? And those people could be people from their own institution. We had people coming from NCBS or JNC or wherever. And now, of course, with this Zoom, you can have them from anywhere you like around the country or the world for that matter. So I think this is a culture that must be somehow inculcated and fostered in many of our institutions. The issue is that if mentors are selected by the chair of the department, for example, there will still be a feeling of intimidation for the younger faculty member. And you must have that young person on board with you when you select mentors. Invariably, I found that having a female mentor is sometimes quite nice, okay? Not just for female faculty, but also for even young male faculty. Now, in biological sciences, it's not difficult to find female researchers who can mentor you. I mean, perhaps in the engineering sciences, it's more difficult, but not in biological sciences. So I urge all my younger colleagues to look for people who they think they'd like to talk to, who they'd like to run their ideas by. So for example, if you're thinking of submitting a manuscript, send it to this mentor, get his or her feedback, and you'll see the work in a completely different perspective. Possibly because the mentor may have nothing to do with the kind of science that you're writing about, but he or she will be able to understand the crux of what you're trying to say. So as far as I'm concerned, I think mentorship is a culture which is, the problem in India is all this guru shishya, right? Whatever the guru tells you to do, you have to do. It's not a dialogue. And I think that's the difference between mentorship and having a guru. With a mentor, you are free to argue and question whatever advice the mentor gives you. And I think we must try to inculcate this in our community. I can't say it's succeeded in many departments in the Institute either. Somehow in this center, it's the new center, we've been able to consistently do it, and our younger colleagues also welcome this mentorship committee. But have I been able to do that in my parent department? No. So there is a history, there's baggage that comes with the past. But I do urge our younger colleagues to even unofficially identify someone who you'd like to talk to and discuss your science with.
So listeners, now that was part 2 of the conversation. We hope you enjoyed listening to it. In part 3 of this discussion, we will talk about challenges around research funding and the organizational culture. Do stay tuned. Please also check out several curated resources on mental health on the India Bioscience website. You will find a link to these on the description section of this podcast. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay healthy. See you soon. If you're passionate about scientific research, communication, outreach, and science education as we are, please connect and engage with us, and here are some ways that you can do so.
Visit our website at www.indiabioscience.org.
Subscribe to our newsletters.
Write for us and join our online discussion forum at discuss.indiabioscience.org.
Advertise jobs, grants and events in the life sciences on our website.
And feel free to contact us anytime at hello@indiabioscience.org.
Until next time, enjoy your science and stay engaged to enable change.